Hello, welcome to Notre Cinéma Maison, where we make the films of the Zeitgeist project with your help. What is the Zeitgeist project? When did it start? Where are we at? What are we doing exactly? This is the subject of this video. Many of you might discover this project via our YouTube channel, so that's why I want to do this recap. Most of the people that already follow the project know a lot of what about I'm going to say, but it still could be useful to have this little recap even for them. So basically the Notre Cinéma Maison is a home studio, home film maker's studio that Anastasia and I are using as a couple of, we're a couple of filmmakers, and we want to make a project called Zeitgeist from this studio. So the idea of this home-based studio is that it's let's say a low-intensity project, in the sense that we're not seeking major funding or anything. It's just a very grassroots project that we want to do with you, because we want to make this experimentation. And what is the experimentation that we're doing with this project? Well, first of all, to explain that, let me just say a few words about the subject. So we chose Zeitgeist. Zeitgeist in German, and it's a word that's used also in English, means the spirit of the times. So it means what in our times is different from before, what is like unique to our times in a way, what is inhabiting our minds today. So that's the general subject of the project. And each film that we will make, the short films that we will make in this project, will explore this idea of what is the zeitgeist of our times. And we chose this subject because we want to use this project to explore the world with you and discover things and interact with aspects of the world that are not in our immediate natural surrounding, like our neighborhood or natural network of friends. We want to go beyond that. Of course, all filmmakers in a sense do that through their films, but we want to do it with you. We want to make the research that we make to do those films as much as the subject of the project as the films themselves. We want to share what we find along the way with the audience, as much as we want to share the films. So it's a project that we hope we will be doing for a while. For this first startup, if you want, we decided to concentrate on 2022. We want to try to make 5 films this year, and next Christmas we will just look back on the year and see what worked, what didn't, and try to adjust from there and see where we go with the project from there. So that's why we chose this subject. The second reason that we chose it is that we want to work with the audience, as I said, and the reason for that is that the zeitgeist is very subjective. It really depends on who you are, where you live. Your point of view on what is the spirit of our times will be very different, and that's totally normal and totally okay. So to explore that subject, we needed to be in contact with a lot of people, and we wanted to through you the audience and our supporters, have access to worlds that would be hard to have access to if we didn't go through you. So it's really about networking. It's really about making this web of interactions be profitable for the project and profitable for everybody that follows the project. So that's why that's how we design this project. And the films themselves will be made with no titles at the beginning and no titles at the end, because we want them to be able to interlock. Like if you want to sit down and watch them, you can watch them in any order, and you can even randomize which ones you want to watch. If you say, okay, I have a half an hour to watch, I'll watch film number 1, 4, and 5. And the reason why we want to do that is because, of course, right now we want to do 5 films, but later we want to do more. And so once we have a good group of films, it will create this kind of jukebox type of mosaic that you can say, okay, I want a playlist, you know, like a Spotify playlist. You watch 6 or 7 films in a row, taken randomly among the films, and it will give you a sitting, you know, like when you sit down for a feature film or for a series of 1 hour or 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's a longer time sitting down and being immersed in the film, and that's what this way of presenting the short films will provide. It will provide a cinematic experience that's more akin to a feature film, but without being a feature film. So something new. So that's on the art side of things. That's what we want to try with this project. Yeah, first of all, I want to stress the why we need you, because, you know, we all live in little silos. I mean, we live where we live. We're in Montreal. We're in this neighborhood. We have this kind of surroundings, social surroundings. And of course, that creates a little bubble around us. And to go outside the bubble is always an effort. It's always not immediate, not easy. And it's much easier when some other people invite you in. So that's why we really wanted to have this contact with you guys and girls and ladies and gents from the audience, because we're positive that at some point your contacts, your knowledge, your entries into this or that sector or milieu will become useful. For those who are not in Montreal or Quebec and are abroad, this project, if all goes well, is bound to bring us outside of Canada. So it's just it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's something that we want to do over the years. So at some point we will probably be seeking for allies in other parts of the world too. And if the pandemic can calm down, it will make things easier on that front too. To finish this video, I need to just bring you up to date. This project was started like a bit secretly during the pandemic in 2021. We created the website, we started thinking about this project, then we started talking of the project to close friends and families, just to have some people sign in, participate, and so we could sort of work things out technically, how things work. We're not YouTubers, we don't know what we're doing, so we needed that help. And during the autumn, we discovered what it is to have full-time jobs as we're doing this project. So we had to readjust some things too at that point. And we started talking of the project a bit more widely. So nowadays we're still learning, of course, totally still learning, but things are much more clearer now of how we want to do this. So that's for the logistics side of things. Last spring, when we started with just a small circle of family and friends, we launched a brainstorm to know what people thought of what is the spirit of the times for them. And they gave us a lot of ideas. I can show you here. I already talked about it before, but I'll show it again. This is the results of the brainstorm. So these are the different points that emerge from this brainstorm. And the brainstorm that we started with them, of course, is not over. It just gave us like a good feeling of what are the major themes, but as more and more people start following the project, we're very curious and eager to hear what you think about these things, these themes, and even maybe you have other ideas of what is important in the zeitgeist of today. So right now I will just go through these themes really quickly to give you an idea of where we're at with this reflection, thinking process. Using all this input and these themes, Anastasia and I are sort of digesting it all and letting our inspiration give us ideas for films, because we will write fiction films. So we're digesting all of that and trying to regurgitate it in a film that will have an artistic intuition inside of it, that will speak about the zeitgeist, but it won't be like, it's not, we're not doing pamphlets, we're not doing essays or stuff like that. It's not about saying what is black and what is white and what is gray. It's about sharing an insight into the human experience of today through film, through story. That's what we're trying to do. So the first theme that really came out is, of course, the climate change crisis, because it's so major, because it's global, because it produces a lot of anxiety. A lot of people talk to us about it, saying that that is the defining element of the zeitgeist. André told us that, I know that it's there, but I'm not doing anything about it. And it was like a resigned, fatalistic statement, expressing what many feel, powerless. We know it's happening, but it's the result of global activity. How can you coordinate 8 billion people to try to confront this problem when the leadership doesn't even have the will to do it? So there's a lot of helplessness in the comments that we had, that it's frustrating to know that it's going on and that we can't do anything about it. Of course, other people are just in complete denial. Not that they don't believe that it's happening, but they're just not seeing any effects around them, and they're just thinking, oh, I don't want to think about that. It's too depressing. And, you know, basically putting your head in the sand until the fire comes up to your door. So I understand why people will do that, because the politics are not giving a good example. And we know what the situation is. We know that we need decisive action in a short amount of time, and that without heavy-handed government implication, it's going to be very hard to get there. So, of course, if the government doesn't seem to be doing anything, and you don't feel you have any power over your government, then you feel powerless, and that produces anxiety. So that's the first big theme, and the film that I want to do with that has a working title called La Manifestante Découragée. So it's the disheartened protester. I don't want to do a depressing film. It's just that I feel that that's my intuition. I feel that a lot of people feel that helplessness and that frustration, and I want to do something that will maybe be a trigger to wake up. But again, we're not doing pamphlets. I will be telling the story of this girl. For those who wonder, the project seems to be mostly in French, and it is. That's the truth for now. It's a lot of work to make these videos, and to make them in both languages is pretty hard. So we'll try to do as much as we can, but of course we probably will produce more content in French than in English. Ultimately, the films will always have the characters speak in their own language. If a scene is going on in a, I don't know, Indian family in Parc Extension, and they're speaking Hindi, they will speak Hindi, and that's it. We will subtitle it. And all the films will be subtitled for French or English. So there will be a version for people that speak English but not French. So there we go for the language issue. So the second theme that emerged, there's 6 or 7 themes. The second major theme was les mœurs. Les mœurs means social norms, social customs. So woke culture, safe spaces, hashtag #MeToo, Black Lives Matter, the expansion of the LGBTQ plus community. By expansion, I mean the expansion of the awareness of the people. You know, a few letters were added. So before we only thought about lesbians and gays, then we started knowing that there were bis also, and trans and queer, and that awareness has widened. And there all these communities, these minorities and these communities are asking loudly for a place at the table, for a society that takes them into account, that sees them, and that should translate by concrete gestures in the public space about that. So that's major. That's major because it sort of redefines what we are as a society, what we consider normal or not. And it extends to race, it extends to religion, what language you speak. Like, I think essentially humans are tribal by nature, but we're trying to create societies that are not tribal, that are based on the rule of law and on a common understanding of what this country should be. And that's pretty hard to do because instinctively we are tribal. We just go to the people that look like us for security. And that's how the animal part of the human being works. So we see this very idealist push towards a society that's, some would say, enlightened, that is able to extend the tribal gut feeling to all humans, to say that humanity is our tribe, the species is our tribe. So we're a long way from that, very long way. But personally, I believe that it has to be done, and that it will be done, maybe in a few hundred years. But that's what's going on, like under all these different identity issues. I feel that there's this question of the common humanity. How can we recognize in everyone our own humanity and not make them strangers, don't make them foreigners, or even worse. And of course there's the flip side of that, is all the identity reactionary reactions, of course. So like white supremacy and all that kind of stuff. Even, I would say, a certain materialistic, atheistic consumer culture that's very 1980s and wants to stay like that. Doesn't want to talk about politics, doesn't want to talk about religion, just is in the pure instant gratification of material consumption. There's a lot of that, like with the Kardashians, and there's so many examples of people that are really proud to be material girls, like Madonna sung before. So there's the two flip sides of this part, which is the changing of the social interactions. Another big theme is, of course, social networks and internet, and that one was a very big one. Everybody talked about it, and it was also two-faced. There was, on one part, the good side, access to information, access to the whole world, instant communication, ability to create groups of interest and get together and organize, to share information, to share documents and photos and everything. Everybody loves that of those that spoke to us. They don't want to throw their iPhone in the lake, not yet. But on the flip side, there was multiple bad things. Like the first would be the FOMO, the fear of missing out, where you realize that you have access to all of these good things on internet, and you want to consume it all. You don't want to miss the next big thing, and so you're always stuck on the internet for that. You don't want to be out of the loop on the next big thing. The fact that being on the internet, on the networks, and having likes and people react to you gives you dopamine shots into your brain, keeps you addicted. That was mentioned, and is bad because it keeps you awake at night. It can produce anxiety when things go bad for you. It basically eats up your time to think and your time to sleep. The other big problem with the networks is the silos, the algorithms that make us like prisoner of a perverted view of the world. Like it's deformed. It's like through a weird, crazy, funny glass. It's not the real thing, and we always had something like that. Like if you read the news, everything seems bad and horrible, and when you read the papers, that's what you get. Your view of the world will be pretty grim if that's the only thing you consume. But the only thing that wasn't that is different today is that before we all read the same newspapers. So we had this sort of, if we had to live through a kind of a bad trip because of some news, everybody would live it at the same time, and the conversation was about what was in the news, and nobody felt left out, and nobody was saying this information is completely false, the truth is the opposite. I mean, you could be, of course, skeptical of some news, but you didn't have this constant black and white opposition available to you. So now we're not reacting to the same news at the same time. We're not reacting the same way, depending on which silo we're in, and we don't know what people in other silos think, and they are becoming strangers to us. And that is really bad, because you know the principle of war. When you want to kill someone, you have to dehumanize him first. You cannot convince people to kill other people. You can convince them to kill their enemies, or to kill the monsters, or to kill, it has to be something else than a human. And that's what these algorithms are doing. Another big, again, I'm just doing generalizations. I'm trying to give you a feeling of the interactions we had with the audience about these themes. It's very subjective. So please, if I say things that you don't agree with, please comment and tell me how I got it wrong. And tell me if what your impressions are on these themes. Next theme is the inequality between rich and poor. Between rich countries and poor countries, but what came out was mostly between rich and poor. It was like, for example, the American dream, the fact that in America anybody can become anything through hard work is sort of dead. People don't really believe in that anymore, not as much as they used to, and they are starting to feel that there is a ruling class in America. I think most Americans nowadays consider that the billionaire class are ruling America. And that's a big difference between, like, if we look at 40 years ago. This equality was the lowest in the 70s, I mean, compared to the beginning of the 20th century, and kept growing back to, like, tremendous heights today. So for an example, I'm just throwing around numbers here, you can verify that, but if I remember correctly, in the 70s, the average CEO was earning 40 times the average salary of his employees. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was more like 300 times or 400 times. So the employees were paid much less compared to their bosses at the beginning of the 20th century. And this spread went smaller and smaller until the 70s. And then in the 70s, we started widening that gap again. And the fact is that people, like regular people, have seen their buying power get smaller or stagnate since the 70s in real dollars when you count for inflation. While the people that are at the top, like mid-level managers and up, they have seen their revenue augment significantly. And people that are invested, people that have capital invested in different, like in the Dow Jones or whatever, they have seen their money grow enormously. So the advancements in productivity and in industrial capacities, let's say it, like the exploitation of the third world countries' labor force to create stuff much cheaper than we could here, all of that produced profit, and that profit was channeled to the same people, the people that are invested in the companies, les actionnaires, the shareholders, and the managerial class. So now, like, that's a long explanation. What I mean to say is that in the zeitgeist of today, the regular people are starting to get in on that. They know now. Before, in the 80s, it was happening already, but people weren't realizing that it was happening as much as today. Today, people know that there are the haves and the have-nots, and the 1% and the 99%. It's become something that it's being talked on the news all the time. I think people are starting to remobilize. I think that there's a conscience of class that is re-emerging in the working class, because it's desperately needed, because the managerial class has just ate the cake and the plate too for decades now. So that's what we're feeling, and we're feeling that people are getting impatient, and that people, for example, in France, when there was the yellow shirts protests, that was because the government wanted to tax petrol for, I don't know, the good of the planet, or I don't remember what was the reason. And the people that can barely live from paycheck to paycheck said this is too much. And the movement was profound and really grassroots and really dangerous in a way. Not badly dangerous, it was a good danger. It was dangerous for the oligarchs, dangerous for the power in place. They just saw that, oh, the skin of the regular man is getting thinner, because we are more and more aware of these inequalities that are just growing year after year. That's for that. And the two last ones, I'll go real quick. It's the global village. So the feeling that we are more connected to the whole planet through the ways that we have to communicate with the rest of the planet. And also the vertigo that it can do to you to be submerged in so much information. And on a cultural level, it means that there is a kind of a uniformization of culture. Like everybody knows what Starbucks is now, like in most cities at least. And in so there's that going on, and on the other side there's the local cultures that are sometimes suffering because they're not trendy, they're not considered like modern, or so they're being left, I don't know, they're being ignored by the young people. And so if the young let go of those traditions will die. So that was like let's say the flip side of this global village. But in the end, there was a lot of good too. The fact that we're able to put a human face on almost any country, that we don't consider foreigners to be something else than human. I mean, in the olden days, when we thought about Asian people, it was like thinking about I don't know, a strange species from another planet. You know, we didn't understand their the way they wrote. We didn't understand the way they spoke, the way their physicality, body language worked. All of that was a mystery to us. Now, I'm talking like a while ago, like maybe 40 years ago, when I grew up. But now we have access to films from Asia. We have access to their, literature, to mangas, to all sorts of things, music. So it has changed enormously, and people travel around. So people from Asian descent are all over America, and white people have always been the colonizers, but still some of them stay in all those countries. So there's contact between the cultures. It's not major, but it's much better than it was, let's say 50 years ago. So that's a good thing. And the last big theme of our brainstorm was technology, for better, for worse. So for better, because we have great advances in technology, in techniques also, not just technology, to grow, for example, organic food in a way that is, let's say, productive. We have green energy technology being developed. We have all sorts of things that are on the right side of progress. Let's say something that will be useful for sustaining a clean economy. And we have all this crazy overproduction still going on. So much material being wasted. And the futurist mirages of transhumanism, of the big reset in Davos, of artificial intelligence used to maybe sometimes do things that shouldn't be done by a machine. and of course all the bioengineering kind of stuff that is sometimes pretty questionable. So technology is moving at a very fast pace still. It's not slowing down for now. So that is part of the zeitgeist of today. So there you go. So those were the themes of our brainstorm. Please comment, go on the website notrecinemaison.com. You will find an English version of the site. You can register if you're interested to get more news. You can post on the forum your own ideas or share elements of reflection for us. And ultimately, if you just want to subscribe to this channel and just come and see the videos once in a while, that's great too, because then you will be aware of what we're doing, where we are in the production cycle, and you can jump in when you feel like it on things that interest you. Your presence watching this video is already a great help to us. And I hope you like our project, and I hope you follow it for the year to come. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.